When Michael Rivera walked into the Grand Meridian Hotel with his mistress on his arm, he thought he was untouchable. The penthouse suite was booked, champagne was chilling, and his secrets were safe. But when he handed his black card to the receptionist, everything stopped. Because walking across the marble lobby with unmistakable authority was his wife Natalia. Except now, she wasn't just his wife. She was the new owner of the entire hotel chain he'd been flaunting his affair in. In that single moment, Michael's carefully constructed world of lies came crashing down. The story of Michael and Natalia Rivera began years before that devastating morning in Miami's most prestigious hotel. They had met when both were young and hungry for success. Michael, a charming real estate developer with grand ambitions, and Natalia, a brilliant accountant with a quiet strength that anchored him when nothing else did. In those early years, Michael had been everything Natalia dreamed of, protective, romantic, and endlessly grateful for her support. When he had nothing but blueprints and borrowed money, she worked double shifts to help fund his first project. When investors doubted him, she believed. When the world said no, she said yes. Together, they built Rivera Development from the ground up. Their Miami penthouse overlooked Biscayne Bay, their circle included governors and CEOs, and their anniversary parties were legendary among South Florida's elite. But somewhere along the climb to success, Michael changed, the unraveling. Late nights at the office became later, business trips multiplied, the warmth in his touch cooled to mechanical affection, delivered on schedule like a calendar reminder. Natalia felt the shift like an earthquake's first tremor, subtle but undeniable. She noticed the expensive dinners charged to his corporate card at restaurants they'd never visited together, the hotel bills from cities where he claimed to be staying with clients, the perfume that wasn't hers clinging to his shirts. When she finally saw the text messages, the ones he thought he'd deleted, her heart shattered into 1,000 silent pieces. A woman named Jasmine, a 26-year-old influencer who loved the thrill of Michael's wealth and status, but knew nothing about the foundation he'd built with Natalia. Natalia could have confronted him. She could have screamed, thrown things, made a scene. But she didn't. Instead, she made a different choice. While Michael was busy conducting his affair, Natalia was conducting business of her own. Using her financial expertise and connections she'd cultivated independently, she began making strategic investments. A portfolio here, a property acquisition there, all under her maiden name, Natalia Mendez, which she'd maintained for professional purposes. The Grand Meridian hotel chain had been struggling financially for years. When the opportunity arose to acquire controlling interest, Natalia saw more than just a business deal. She saw freedom, the day of reckoning. The morning Michael walked into the Grand Meridian flagship hotel in downtown Miami, the sun was bright and the bay breeze carried the scent of expensive cologne and arrogance. He wore his Tom Ford suit like armor, his platinum Rolex catching the light as he guided Jasmine through the revolving doors. The lobby was a symphony of marble, crystal, and understated wealth. Staff members in crisp uniforms moved with choreographed precision. Everything gleamed, from the floor to the chandelier overhead. "The penthouse suite, Mr. Rivera," Jasmine cooed, adjusting her designer sunglasses. "You really do spoil me." Michael smirked, believing the world belonged to him. He approached the reception desk, where a young clerk looked up with a professional smile that faltered slightly when she glanced past him. "Good morning, sir. May I have your—" She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening. Michael followed her gaze and felt his heart stop. Natalia.
Before we continue, please comment below where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe.
She stood near the executive offices on the far side of the lobby, dressed in a cream-colored power suit that radiated quiet authority. Her dark hair was pulled back in an elegant chignon, and she wore the pearl earrings he'd given her for their 10th anniversary, the last gift that had meant something. But it wasn't nostalgia softening her expression. It was steel. She wasn't there as the betrayed wife, desperate for explanation. She was there as the woman who now controlled everything he'd taken for granted. The receptionist's hands trembled slightly as she processed Michael's reservation. Whispers began spreading among the staff. Guests in the lobby sensed the shift in atmosphere and looked up from their phones. Jasmine, oblivious at first, pressed closer to Michael. "Baby, what's wrong? Why is everyone—" Then she followed his gaze and saw Natalia. Even with no context, Jasmine understood immediately that she was standing in the shadow of someone whose presence made her own seem insignificant. The confrontation that wasn't. Natalia didn't rush forward. She didn't need to. Her heels clicked against the marble in a measured rhythm as she crossed the lobby. Each step echoed like a verdict being read. Staff members straightened unconsciously. A hush fell over the space. When she reached the reception desk, she didn't even look at Jasmine. Her dark eyes locked on Michael, and in that gaze, he saw the reflection of every lie he'd told, every promise he'd broken, every moment he'd taken her for granted. "Mrs. Rivera," the receptionist stammered, her professionalism barely maintained. "I mean, Ms. Mendez, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were—" "It's fine, Maria," Natalia said gently, her voice carrying the kind of calm that comes from absolute authority. "Please cancel Mr. Rivera's reservation. The penthouse suite is being reserved for our executive management meetings this week." Michael found his voice, though it came out rougher than he intended. "Natalia, what are you—" "Mr. Rivera," she interrupted, her tone pleasant but final. "I'm afraid the Grand Meridian no longer offers accommodations for your particular needs. I'm sure you can find suitable arrangements elsewhere, perhaps somewhere less particular about their clientele." The words landed like surgical strikes, precise and devastating. Jasmine's face flushed crimson as understanding dawned. She stepped away from Michael, suddenly very interested in her phone, as if scrolling could make her invisible. "You bought the hotel?" Michael whispered, his usual confidence crumbling. "When? How?" "While you were busy with other investments," Natalia replied smoothly. "I found time to make my own." The aftermath. In the days following that encounter, Michael's world continued its collapse. The story spread through Miami social circles like wildfire. The faithless husband caught by his wife, who now owned the very hotel where he'd been conducting his affair. Jasmine disappeared from his life before the sun set that day, her Instagram suddenly scrubbed of any photos featuring him. Fairweather friends suddenly had full calendars when he called. Michael found himself wandering his empty penthouse, surrounded by luxury that now felt hollow. He replayed memories he'd dismissed as mundane, Natalia bringing him coffee in the morning, the way she'd stayed up late reviewing contracts with him, how she'd believed in his dreams when he barely believed in himself. He understood, too late, that success meant nothing without the person who'd stood beside him when success seemed impossible. Natalia's renaissance. Natalia, meanwhile, transformed the Grand Meridian into something more than just a luxury hotel chain. Under her leadership, it became a symbol of resilience, a place where people came not just to stay, but to restart their lives. She created a program offering discounted rooms to women fleeing difficult situations. She hired staff who'd been overlooked by other establishments because of gaps in their resumes or unconventional backgrounds. She turned the flagship hotel into a venue for charity events supporting domestic abuse survivors. Guests whispered about the elegant woman who'd once been heartbroken but rose stronger. She didn't just own the hotel. She embodied it. Graceful, strong, and unshakable. One evening, 6 months after that fateful morning, Michael appeared in the hotel lobby once more. This time he came alone, wearing humility instead of arrogance. Natalia was reviewing quarterly reports in her office when her assistant informed her of his arrival. "He's asking to see you, Ms. Mendez." "Should I have security?" "No," Natalia said quietly. "I'll speak with him." 5 minutes. When Michael entered her office, he looked diminished somehow, as if the weight of his regrets had physically compressed him. The confident swagger was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like wisdom born from pain. "Thank you for seeing me," he said, standing awkwardly by the door. Natalia gestured to a chair but remained behind her desk, maintaining the boundary that now defined their relationship. "I came to say I'm sorry," Michael continued when she didn't speak. "Not because I want anything from you. Not because I think sorry can fix what I broke, but because you deserve to hear it. You deserved better than what I gave you." Natalia studied him for a long moment. The anger she'd felt had long since burned itself out, leaving behind something cleaner. Acceptance. "You're right," she said simply. "I did deserve better. That's why I chose to give it to myself." Michael nodded, his eyes glassy. "The hotel, your success, it's not just about business, is it?" No, Natalia admitted. It's about proving to myself that I never needed you to be whole. I was already whole. I just forgot that for a while. The message. Michael left her office without asking for forgiveness or second chances. He understood, finally, that some things once broken can't be repaired. They can only be transformed into something new. Natalia watched him go from her window overlooking the bay. The sunset painted the water in shades of gold and purple, and she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Complete peace. She didn't hate Michael. She didn't even think about him most days. Her life had become full in ways that had nothing to do with him. Meaningful work, genuine friendships, the quiet satisfaction of building something that mattered. The greatest revenge, she'd learned, wasn't destroying those who hurt you. It was becoming so fulfilled that they became irrelevant.